media that speaks to us and who we are in a real
Yeah, I
way.
love the work that you're doing. I was able to kind of look at some of the issues of Blackout and just the voices that you highlight, the stories that you center is so necessary. So I appreciate the work that y'all do.
Willing to fight for it. Fight, fight, fight. So,
Hi, my name is Tamara Lee, and I'm the editor of Blackout Magazine, and I'm here to welcome you to The Cost of Visibility. Blackout Magazine was established in 2020. We wanted to, in the wake of what the Trump administration had done their first go around, give the Black and brown, queer and trans community a voice, a platform, a stage. And we created over the course of the last 5 years this incredible body of work. You see some of it behind me. That is filled with our stories. It's filled with culture and entrepreneurs and activists and all of the positivity that our community brings. Since the election, we have changed our focus slightly. We love talking about culture and the beauty in our communities, but it's been incredibly important for us to also talk about news. There are big things happening every single day, and with the deluge of information coming at everyone since the inauguration, we felt like it was incredibly important to not just bring you all the beauty in our community, although that is so important too. Joy is resistance. We want to make sure that our community understands what's happening. What is real, what is fake news, what they need to be aware of, and what they need to be paying attention to. So if this is your first contact with Blackout Magazine, welcome to the family. We have been working as hard as we can to make sure that our voice rings through all the noise, to help you understand what's happening, and keep you up to date with what's going on in your world. The best way to do that is to follow us on social media. We are on all of the things, but probably the most important way is to subscribe. I'm sure Winston throughout the night will talk about subscribing to Blackout, because that is his number one elevator pitch about Blackout. But it's so incredibly important that our community is following news that's speaking to us and telling our stories and the stories that no one else tells. We are so incredibly proud of the work that we've done, and I'm so incredibly proud of the people that have done it with me. A couple times in that 5 years, we've come together in moments like this for roundtable discussions. A couple years ago, we did it on T-Door to have a real conversation with activists and people out working ground level to make sure that the trans community and their losses and their triumph was remembered and heard. And it was an incredible night. Tonight, we do the same thing for trans visibility. We celebrate month, not day. And I brought together a collection of people that are my trusted colleagues. They are my friends and they are my family. And I am honored enough to have them also be contributors to Blackout Magazine. They share their experience with us month after month to make sure that we bring humanity to a community that has been painted in a way that strips them of humanity every single day. And so I invite you to listen. If you are of the trans experience, please join in. We are on Facebook Live right now. We are on Instagram Live, and I will make sure from behind the scenes that those comments that you leave make it to our guests so that they can include you in the conversation. If you are queer and an ally of the community, or even an ally outside of the queer community and are here with us tonight, thank you for coming to listen. And please do that. Please sit back, listen, hear, and learn from people who are sharing their truths and sharing their stories. I'm going to have them come on and introduce themselves, who they are in the world and to the world, and who they are to Blackout, so you can learn a little bit of their stories. And then each of them is holding a few topics, and they will go around the room and discuss them. One of the important things that I hope comes out of tonight is just giving them an opportunity to have another opportunity to address the world. Their voices are so important. That's why I'm sending this one out, because my voice is not needed here. They do such incredible work, each one of them, in their own communities and nationally, to fight and to be representative and to teach, to educate, to break ground, to break ceilings. That another platform for them to be heard and seen is always an incredible one. So I want to thank them personally, for teaching me so much, and being patient enough to answer my questions, for helping us lead this fight together, and for allowing me to be part of the fam. And I'm standing with and for them always. So I would like to introduce to you E.L. Winston, Victoria Von Blaque, Tahiry Srrdouglas, and Javannah Davis. And tonight is Blackout Magazine's The Cost of Visibility.
Hey, beautiful people. How y'all doing tonight?
I'm wonderful.
I am.
Okay,
Y'all
hey.
good?
Good.
Hey. How y'all out there in Facebook, Instagram land? Great to have y'all with us. So we're gonna introduce ourselves.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I guess I could go first since I already started speaking. I am E.L. Winston. I am your resident old man and dyslexic, your favorite dyslexic book nerd here at Blackout Magazine. Um, and I'm also half of the Love Lives in Us team of me and my missus. Those are three columns that I write and contribute to. I hail from North Carolina by way of Illinois. I was born and raised in Chicago. I've been here in the South 10 years now. I founded organization called Transformation NC, and we are here to amplify the Black trans male voice, to serve in any way that we can, whether it be gender affirming items, support groups, any way we can. And so that's what I do here where I'm at. Next.
I'll go next. My name's Javannah Davis. I'm a nurse, award-winning activist, advocate, columnist for Blackout Magazine. I'm also president and founder of Wave Women Incorporated. We're Black femme trans-led organization in Central and Western New York. We're a nonprofit organization in Central and Western New York. I'm also a four-time self-published author, camp counselor for LGBTQ plus youth in the summers. I'm a minister, and I just love being able to share my knowledge and lived experience with young trans folks, especially young Black and Brown trans folks, and being that mentor and inspiration to them, and watching them grow. And even though they can be a pain in the you know what, but just watching young Black and Brown trans folks, young trans people in general, thrive and blossom into their authentic selves just makes me know that I work in my purpose. And that's me in a nutshell.
Hi.
Next.
I'm Victoria Von Blaque.
Well,
I use they, she pronouns. I don't have to say that anymore. But yeah, I am a activist, sex worker, um, artist, entertainer, consultant. I'm really bad about talking about myself, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to T.
It's my turn.
It's
You
your
left.
turn.
Um, I'm T. Douglas, upstate New York, born and raised in Niagara Falls, New York. Currently live in Buffalo, New York. Um, always been a Western New York resident. So I'm on the board. I'm a board member of Gender Equality New York, which is an organization that teaches, educates, and connects trans people all over New York State. Um, I also am a columnist for Blackout Magazine. Vivid Voices is my column, but I'm also one half of the podcast, The Tea with T and T. Also a member of Ballroom, not soon. Um, and I am also a trans youth coordinator. So I work with trans youth and gender expansive kids ages 5 through 17. Activist, advocate, um, and I'm T. So I'm happy to be here with all these amazing people. Um, Beautiful, amazing people, I should say. Um, so yeah, let's get this conversation going.
You're welcome, T. We're glad to be here with you too.
All right, topic time.
Uh-oh. So it looks like I'm going first.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question of the evening is, if you have your own org, what challenges have you faced being seen, heard, and taken seriously?
Mm.
I'll definitely go first with this one because as the creator and leader of a nonprofit organization, which is Wave Women Incorporated, I have met many challenges of getting my name out there, being overlooked. As a Black woman, we are already not taken as seriously in the work that we do. And as a Black trans woman, it's even more difficult to get your foot in the door and get people to really acknowledge the work that you're doing without being over and above your white counterparts. It goes back to white mediocrity is celebrated more than Black excellence. So that's a challenge in and of itself. Having a Black trans femme led organization, we're we're not given the big checks and financial support like some organizations are, and we have to work 3 times as hard to even be able to not only have enough to pay our own bills, but also to help do the work that we want to do out here in our community. Um, so yeah, those are really big challenges, and being able to walk into rooms and hold your head up and knowing your worth and knowing what you're bringing to the table um, in face of so much adversity and pushback um, from sometimes even your own people. Um, a lot of us, being a Black trans woman in certain settings, I have felt misogynistic pushback from my trans brothers in some regard and not taken seriously in what I'm doing. And I'm fighting for you too. Like, but that I guess that's history, right? That's that misogynistic patriarchal society that we tend to be bombarded with. So there are many challenges where I come from, um, that I've experienced that makes you wonder, why am I even still doing this? So
Well, well, you keep doing it because it's some people out there that need that, right? So for me locally, my biggest issue would be that I think it's partly because we're in the South, and so to reach people is sometimes very daunting, right? So 'cause I know I can't be the only trans dude here, and I know I can't be the only trans dude of color here, right? But I was having that conversation with someone the other day, and it comes down to a lot of, especially here, like the Black LGBTQI voice is not really heard here, right? So that's already um, a barrier for me, right? I gotta jump over them hoops, connect with people who not only want to hear my voice at the table, right, but that are listening, like because here, um, it seems more like people would like me at the table to say I'm at the table versus listening to what I'm saying at the table locally. Now, as far as moving in community, doing the work that I do outside of where I am, I tend to run into the old boys club. So it's like if you don't fit into the old boys club, then I got to work twice as hard to prove that I belong at the table. And at this point in my life in transition, I don't really care to play those games and try to sit at that table. I got a table of my own, and those that I'm supposed to help and reach, I'm gonna help and reach them regardless if you recognize that I'm here and I'm working, or if you do. So, you know, it definitely gets frustrating, especially in circles where uh, you feel like we should all be doing the same thing together, but it don't always work out that way.
and I just want to point out, I said towards the end that I think about why I'm doing this, and I have to elaborate on that because I'm not going any fucking where. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing in the midst of it all. But it is challenging, and you know, yeah, I just want to make that perfectly clear. I'm never gonna back down from my purpose, and this, I know it's my purpose because it gives me joy to help those people that do appreciate what I'm doing and that do benefit from what I'm doing within my organization. So
You're gonna get you a t-shirt say I ain't going no.
I ain't going nowhere. Period.
Period, poo.
T.
Well, I don't have my own organization, but I do work with a lot of organizations, so I do see the same challenges that both of you are talking about. Because I worked with bigger organizations, and then I worked with small grassroots organizations, and a lot of times the small grassroots Black and Brown organizations or groups, they don't get the funding for the work that they're trying to do, or they get, chopped out a small portion, like spoon fed a small portion of funding, but people expect huge results from this little spoon fed that they're giving you. So they expect you to take this little portion and do a big chunk of the work for them, is what I see with like a lot of the smaller organizations that I work with, and how funding works for them. And then I see the bigger organizations, you know, mostly whitewashed for sure. They come in, they scoop up all the funding, and again, they start this. Let me divvy it out here, divvy it out there, and make it look good. Because I'm working with these small groups, but I'm keeping most of the money and expecting them to do most of the work. Is pretty much what I see a lot of times.
I don't disagree. I don't have a nonprofit. I've had a for-profit, well, I have a porn company or a porn entertainment company, and I've had it for 10 years. Um, but like being a consultant, being the director of contract at Trans Equity, one of the major things I see is like that scarcity mindset. Um, you know, in the way that like I do a training and I call it government hooker, because being a consultant is just another way of like hustling in a way. I'm just changing in my knee pads for like a smile in people's faces who I really don't like, and have to work with people who are giving us like sympathy pats. And I mean exactly what I said, sympathy, because they look down on us. And a lot of cases, seeing where a lot of the funding is going are to these white led orgs when they're not the ones that are experiencing most of the impact of the stuff we're seeing. And so, though I don't have a nonprofit, though I don't work for a nonprofit now, a lot of our clients are nonprofits. And seeing the way we are expected to shuck and jive for the little bit of coins that we're offered, and then reminded that we should be thankful for these pennies, and still ask us to provide, like he said, these results, is obnoxious. I'm done.
All right.
So should we each go through all of our questions, or are we piggyback bouncing back and forth?
I think it's bouncing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like bounce back and forth. What area of advocacy do most feel drawn to and why? So for me, um, clearly, my focus is uh trans men, especially trans men of color. Um, I I I strive to create spaces, safe spaces for not just um trans men who fit the box, right? Because I don't fit the box, and I mean we'll get into that on my when it's my next turn question. But I don't fit the box, and so I felt a need to create a space for everybody, but more importantly for those who, yeah, just didn't check all the boxes that what I call the old guard said that you were supposed to check. And if you ain't check them, then you ain't. I don't even know what you're doing here, right? That kind of thing. So that's my main focus of my advocacy, and that's why, because in places where I go, if there is not a space for me, I'm gonna make a space for me and those behind me. So that was that.
And that's what it's about, making space. that and the direction of my organization, if I am answering your question correctly, what avenues do we want to go in? And that's for us as an organization, my goal is always healthcare and housing. Those are the two main focal points of our organization for trans folks, specifically Black and Brown trans folks. Um, for one, because I love healthcare. I've been in healthcare for 20 plus years. I'm a nurse. Um, and being already born into a marginalized community, which is the Black community, and seeing the need for the visibility for women's health in our community, promoting prostate exams for trans women, GYN visits for, prostate exams for trans women, GYM visits for trans men, um, learning mammograms, knowing the health risks, um, diabetes, all that type of thing within our community that we get, not enough information on. And it can be detrimental to our lives. So, me, for me, that's where my focal point lies is healthcare and housing and making sure we have safe, secure um, housing and being able to live our lives and grow.
I I never considered myself an activist until recently. I was told I was an activist. What I was doing is community care.
Come on,
What I was doing
communicate.
is making sure that people who look, sound, and maybe feel like me are taken care of. So I guess those intersections would be trans, sex work, um, BIPOC, emphasis on Black, but also, and I mean also healthcare. But with that all being said, these are all systemic issues, and these are things that are like I've worked with homelessness, and like when people's needs are met, everything else will fall into place.
Amen.
If you want people to not be, possibly, I see things like they have reclaim or restoring Roosevelt. If you don't want sex workers on the street, give them a place to work, give them a place to live. It's very simple, it's not hard. If you want your clients to adhere to their medication, maybe give them a place where they can keep their medication. And then maybe maybe a reminder or two, then they'll take it. Like each one hand washes the other. And so you can get to the baseline of people's needs, everything else will just fall into place.
That's true. I think for me, I think mine is a little bit more. Um, I don't have a specific area. Right now, I work with kids, so like I'm a little hyper focused on them just because they're the most vulnerable in our community, especially Black and Brown youth, because I really do believe that like they're our future and like I learn from them as much as they learn from me. I feel like it's really big to be like I guess I want to be the person that I never had as a kid. Somebody to talk to about like what it is to transition, what it is to like if I'm even trans, like what does that mean? Like making sure that they have the space to just express themselves into whoever they become, and just knowing and just making the world safer for them. Um, you know, that I'm super hyper focused. I think it's just because right now I work with kids and I see like everything that they go through. I like I said, they start out in my program at 5, and like it's such a big change from like the 5-year olds and the like preteens to like the teenagers. And yes, they all need a space, but it's like something that changes, once the rest of the world like gets to them. And like it's heartbreaking to see. So like I just always want to create spaces for them because to see a kid who is like 9 years old and is like, this is who I am, and just happy to be trans. Like they talk about it, they're and it's not even like they hyper focused on it. It's just like this is who they are, and they're proud of who they are. And then like something happens in those teenage years where they're like, I feel like I gotta hide from the world, and I just hate to see that. So I'm like, I want to make them feel like, yes, this space that I create for you is a safe space, but I need you to find a place in the world that is like this world is yours too. So making sure that like they know that this is your world just as much as it is everybody else's. This is your space in here, but outside there is your space too, and don't let anybody take that away from you. So I'm like really big on that.
Come on, Octavia Saint Laurent. Um, so my question comes with a little bit of a trigger warning. Do you believe that the murders of trans, feminine, and women who happen to be sex workers or are perceived to be sex workers get less attention, and why?
Because the
Okay.
society already sees trans folks as disposable, and they look down on prostitution in and of itself and always have. So it's just another dead hooker. And knowing that they're trans is just another dead trans hooker. So what's the point? So, and it's comes with dead naming, it comes with misgendering, it comes with so much. And I think it happens because of the vitriol society has for trans folks and sex workers in general. And it's that simple. And it also comes with the like lack of respect for someone as a human being. So
I really don't think you could have said anything better. That kind of explained it all in a nutshell. I feel like because you're right. Like the world dehumanizes trans people to begin with. They dehumanize sex workers for how they choose to, live their lives and how the autonomy that they have over their own bodies. So it's like you got this plus this, and then don't be black and brown or brown on top of that.
that just blows it
Because
out the water.
right,
Mhm.
right. Now you a sex worker, you trans, and you black and brown. Oh, we don't even care. We like you might as well just not even you might as well not even like look for the killer. Is how I feel. How like the police treat it. Oh
Because
well,
honestly, if
there's no.
nobody says anything, it's nothing's gonna happen.
It's just written off as, oh well, there goes another one,
Mhm.
or you know because they don't value, first off, America don't value black and brown lives to begin with, so how is they going to value black and brown trans lives?
True facts. I mean, they don't value black and brown women. So then you say you don't value black and brown women. You definitely not gonna uh value a black and brown trans sex worker. Like if you black and brown, it's a wrap. We don't care. They could care less And I always find it funny that it becomes an issue about sex workers, but it ain't an issue that you participate, enjoy uh the work that they do. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's talk about that. Like, it's so many people out here that's full of self-hate, and they take that out on us. And
And
it's
let's
like,
call a spade a spade. Like, we get that same hate in our community, just like
as
Yaritza said. Like, there's some of us that look down on sex workers. There's some of us that don't understand, girl, I don't know why they was out on the street anyway. So it ties back to society.
definitely.
It
I think
ties back to the culture.
that I think that's a good place for me to piggyback because I'm gonna give you a lyric or two and then I'm gonna jump off from there. Girls can wear jeans and cut their hair short, wear shirts and boots because it's okay to be a boy. But for a boy to look like a girl is degrading because you think that being a girl is degrading. But secretly, you'd love to know what it's like, wouldn't you? What it feels like for a girl. Now, I usually don't quote that white person, but that lyric is something that has always resonated with me. Because I think about how we as a society, we will allow your Aunt Bertha, who has a roommate, they happen to share a twin size bed, and she's allowed to come to the barbecue. But Uncle Twinkle, who has done your hair for years, might have a friend we have a problem with. And so I say all that to say is that we have a problem with femininity, period. And for someone or a population to take on willingly that, you know, lack of privilege for a lot of people is an issue. People have a disgust with femininity, no matter how much it turns them on. And on top of that, I find it disgusting that sex work is literally the oldest profession in the world. Before we had doctors and contractors, we had dick suckers. Yet, we're supposed to be ashamed of that. I don't hear people being like, "Oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, I'm a dentist." But I'm supposed to be ashamed that I do porn. America is telling us that porn is a problem, which is why obviously now Pornhub, was removed from Florida because they said, you know what, if you don't appreciate us, we're gonna go where we're appreciated. Which I find fascinating that so many politicians that have voted to remove sex work target not just the sex workers, target the directors, the platforms, anyone that promotes it, and try and spice it up and be like, it's for the children. We're doing this because we're keeping children safe, false assessor, but yet not one person has been convicted under false assessor. We don't get the acknowledgement, we don't get the coverage because people don't see us as people unless their dicks are hard.
Ooh.
When something happens to us, as you said, we are dead named. They use our profession as an excuse or a justification for the treatment we have received. Make it make sense. If a construction worker falls into a hole, they're not blaming it on the fact that, you know what, he was there in the first place. It's his fault for falling into that hole. No, we find every other reason to justify. Just like these guys out here are killing our sisters. And then if they do actually get caught, they go to the court, said, I didn't know this I'm sorry, let's keep it frank. I didn't know this was a dude.
Mhm.
He tricked me. And 9.5 out of time, they are let go. There's a convicted murderer living in New York who used to be a fireman, who has a history of killing the girls or abusing the girls. And he's gotten away with it every time because he's a white man. But no one's asking, okay, fine. If let's say you were tricked the first time, how many times were you tricked, sir? At what point do we start asking these questions? Nah, because we're not worth anything, because all we are whores. And if you're a trans woman, that is your preferred income, or what we're told we have to do.
Not Magic Banana.
Well,
Not Magic Banana. Come on.
I prefer a
Come on,
flapano
Magic Banana.
personally, but close enough.
That just took me out.
All right.
Yes.
Yo,
My, I think we on to my question next.
can I just say one thing before we get to your question though? Can I just
Yeah,
say one thing?
yeah, go-
Magic Banana.
When you were saying about like um how if your aunt and whoever they cut their hair and they put the shorts shirt on and that thing, right, like it's nothing really said, but for me, in my opinion, right, because um before I transitioned, I was a masculine of centered person, right, and so if you present if you AFAB and you present in a masculine way, right, you're not invited to the barbecue either, and it's always somebody that is trying to um uh what's the word I'm looking for, demasculate you, for lack of a better word, right? So like it's always somebody saying um or approaching you in a more aggressive way about you not really that way, and you ain't been with the right dude, and you confused, and those type of things that turn into dangerous situations,
Mm-hmm.
like me, right? And so I think the thing is, you can look a little boyish if you AFAB, but you can't go too far across the line without it being a thing. I think that really it's like I say, like black women are the most disrespected people on the planet, right? And so in their eyes, it doesn't matter if I was assigned female at birth or if this is the gender that I identify with. In their eyes and minds, we all the same, and we all don't matter. So yeah, that's
Oh,
just
I
what
don't
I'm.
disagree. I'm not sitting here
Right.
saying that
No,
it
no, I didn't say
is
you
yeah.
disagree. I just said, you know what I'm saying. I just wanted to say that because that was
Oh,
on my mind.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I just mean like I have seen, unfortunately, especially when you see like the numbers of who's been kicked out their homes,
Mm-hmm.
it's usually the feminine.
Oh yes,
That
definitely.
is that I could definitely agree with. Working with youth, I see the difference in the parents. Um, and I'm gonna be frank, it's usually us, black and brown. So I see that a lot of fathers can handle um their daughters transitioning to male,
Mm-hmm.
but they cannot handle their sons transitioning to female.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and honestly, sometimes I really have to sit down and have higher conversations with these people because they will go tooth and nail back. Like we'll be sitting there at the table back and forth, back and forth. They'll be like, I they're already black. They already have so much against them in this world. Why would they want to be
Mm-hmm.
this? And why would they want to be that? And I'm like, you cannot choose nobody's life for them. Like, but honestly, what it all comes down to, and I really sit with a lot of parents, and it's always the same thing. It's a fear. And I've had parents say that out their mouth a lot of times. It is the fear that they have for their kids a lot of times, which is why, and I'm not talking about the like overly religious people who are like, this is God and I'm not you. What I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people. There are some people that it is 100%. I've heard it out their mouth. Like, I am scared for my child if they transition. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what their life will be like. I want them to be, and I ask them, like, do you want them to be healthy? You want them to be happy? Like, this is what will keep them healthy and happy. And like, you can jump on board or you can get kicked off the ship because
Mm-hmm.
that's the reality of it.
Facts.
Because you can't make a person be who they not. You can at a certain age. You can prohibit and delay it, but you're not, you can't stop it. And as a parent, and I try to tell all the parents, like especially our black parents, like, do you want to be the one that they call in the middle of the night, or do you want to be the one they never call again? Because if you want to be there to make sure they happy and healthy, like, you got to get on board. You got to be on the ship in order to make sure that they happy and healthy.
Facts.
Speak on it.
Whoop, whoop.
Listen, it like, I ain't gonna even lie, communities of colors a lot of times be the hardest. Like,
And
your
it
your your
hurts.
our black families, our Puerto Rican families that are first generation, our Asian families, like, it's it's a lot of cultural, like, stuff that's built up in there that they have to work through before they can get to that ship.
Oof.
So with mine, it says, if you have worked within human rights or LGBTQ agencies and organizations, what has your experience been and what are they getting wrong? Well, how much time we got?
Woo!
I mean,
Woo!
Tam knew what she was doing when she gave me this question.
She sure did.
So let me just say, I do currently work for a LGBTQ organization, and I think a lot of our bigger organizations are getting everything wrong. And I'm gonna be honest, the biggest part is you are not bringing us to the table how you should with our input. And if you are bringing us to the table to get our input, you are not paying us like you paying everybody else. and that's a lot of the bottom. There's too much tokenism. Um, a lot of things are wrong with a lot of these organizations. Like I said before, they expect you to do the work without giving you the pay. They want to chop you out small portions and expect you to serve full communities without the resources. Because they keeping most of the resources, they keeping most of the money. It's going to their paychecks. It's going to the boards. It's going. It's not coming to the people who are on the ground doing the work. It's definitely not. It's not going to the community for resources how it should be. These organizations is getting funded a lot of times to serve specifically the most marginalized people, which are Black and brown people. But how many Black and brown people walk through the door of these organizations to get the help that they deserve and that they need? And when they do walk through, how many of them feel like a number instead of a person?
Well, I mean, that is being seen in the fact that when we had the whole Mpox epidemic kick out, where they had specific places for Black and brown gay men to get tested and treated, who went to those locations? Who had access to those locations? And who knew about those locations? Cis, wealthy, white men. That
I'm gonna
is
be
who
honest.
had access to this information. That is who had the privilege to go get seen, leave their happy little places in Hell's Kitchen and Chelsea and bring them all the way down to those unsavory neighborhoods that they only go to pick up the trade. Well, isn't that fascinating? I also think that it's fascinating when a lot of these orgs are specifically, like T said, we're going to, you know what? We need someone who's trans for metrics. We need this because, funding says, I need this. So then they grab the first, usually Black, trans, female slash woman, and shove them into an outreach position. When they're in that outreach position, now they're asking her, we need you to now train upward the staff on trans competency, LGBTQIA rights, usually sex workers, even if that trans woman was not a sex worker. I remember working at a nonprofit, and the CEO wanted to have meetings with everyone who worked there. And he had a meeting with me, and the first thing out of his mouth was he grabbed my hand and he said, I just want to say thank you for being who you are. I know you have had a hard time through life. Me? Now, granted, I didn't know better back then, but here I am showing up at a homeless shelter wearing Chanel. Darling, I am from Long Island. I have never had it hard. But what they saw was someone who was Black, trans, and they automatically assumed I was disenfranchised in a way that I wasn't. Because no matter, we all have privilege. No matter who you have privilege. But they did not, they assumed that I was something I wasn't. And I will never forget that because that is how they bring us into these situations strictly for numbers usually, or they tell us that they want us to do this job, and then when we do this job, there's a problem. My last statement on that is they need to realize that the way they're doing things is not working. You want us to connect with this population as you hired us to do underneath your format of how that's supposed to be working. You want to go and work with sex workers, but yet your clinic is only open 9 to 5. But you want sex workers, and in your ideology, that sex worker is a streetwalker. So what is she doing at 9 to 5? That bitch is asleep.
Hello.
So if you want this to actually work, maybe put some intention and actual thought behind it.
Y'all said it all.
Or get out of the way of the people who know how to make it work.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to be tokenized in these establishments as Black and brown trans folks.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes made to be silent when we try to speak up about what the organization is getting wrong. And oftentimes we tend to leave those spaces because we are either pushed out by bullying, or now they're trying to demote you, or it's something as a retaliatory attack for what you are doing to speak up. And I face this in an organization that is still kind of problematic to us, Black and brown folks, in the Rochester, New York area. And I've made it very clear, even to, the higher ups, that there are certain things you're getting wrong, that you need to really come down from where you are and be amongst the people you say you are here to serve, and actually get to know what they need for themselves to thrive and be healthy, and um, actually know that you're here for them. Because right now it just looks like you're catering to cis gay white men, or cis gay white men with HIV or something like that, and the other folks are either, when they come in with a complaint, they're being confrontational, they're being aggressive. But when our white counterparts or non-black counterparts come in with their complaints, they're trying to rectify that situation immediately and don't want them to be upset as their clients. So yeah, y'all summed it up when you said that these places are definitely getting it wrong, and it's just not cool.
I don't know if they even want to get it right. That's the thing. I think a lot of times they just want to look like they're getting it right. I think it's more about perception than it
Mm-hmm.
is really about being an ally to the people that you serve and the people who serve the community for you. Um, because you can't say, for instance, you can't say I have unconditional love for the community, especially the LGBTQ community, but your LGBTQ workers you pay lower than everybody else in your organization. So you're further marginalizing your own community that you say you love and that you say that you're an ally for. So I just be like, make it make sense to me. How are you really an ally when you have a chance, not only a chance to serve people uh, better, but you have a chance to create the standard
Hmm.
because you can. You can go above what the law requires you to do to create a better standard and you choose not to.
That's
That is where I'm.
but you kind of hit it on the head though, T. They're doing exactly what they said they are. They're allies. And what is an ally? An ally writes a check.
But
An
that's why
ally puts
we need
that
But you're
to
not
flag
even
go
up
writing
when
out
they
checks.
and
want
open our
us.
own
We need
organizations like that.
co-conspirators.
But,
That's what we need. We don't need
but you're
allies. We
not
got
writing
tons of
checks though.
allies. We got tons of
But you can't
allies.
call yourself an ally and still marginalize the people that you say you're being an ally for, because that's not an ally to me at all.
I don't disagree,
You
but
know,
look at Rachel Maddow. But then that's another story, right? So all I'm saying is, people, for me, there's levels to this shit. Just like when you go to a fundraiser, they got tiers. An ally is bronze tier. Those are the people who want to be able to say, I see you. I love Pride too, and Madonna's great.
No,
Yes,
that's
RuPaul's
allies.
my friend.
Then you have we have, I forgot what the silver tier is, but we're going to just jump to gold. I want me a co conspirator. That's who I want. I want someone who's going to be like, you know what? I see what you're doing. You just fired this black trans person, an extremely marginalized population, over something petty that had nothing to do with them. So here's your options. Either you hire them back and do reparations, or I'm publicly talking about this and I'm leaving. Because otherwise, what are you saying, Rachel Maddow? What you're saying is, I see what you're talking about. I see that I love my black friend. Great colleague. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to take and use my privilege to make it right. I'm not going to speak up about the character and what you bring that makes this thing great. What I'm going to do is talking about how much of a friend you are and how much I'm going to miss you. They're two different things.
So basically, what we saying is these orgs are not allies.
they're
They
full of
some of
shit.
them write checks, but
What?
some of them don't even reach the ally level. They
Right.
they still they still what's that, the $25 level when you just coming in?
Mhm.
What's that one? What's
Look,
that
I
one
don't even know what
underneath
that
it?
is. That's
It's
a
like the
associate,
silver,
maybe. Maybe
the
that's an associate.
bronze.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
that's the level. Maybe that was the silver level associate. Like,
They
I
was
know
down there.
you.
But
That's
My
a
best
thank you
friend's
for
black
joining us
level.
today.
That's that
That's
level.
what
That's
that
the
is.
$25 level.
right.
My
Yeah,
best
yeah,
friend's
they be
black
down
level.
there. And especially with the Trump regime, with all of this, you get to see their true colors now. This is time, you know. What it's either you with us or against us, and this is the time that all those orgs that say that they love trans people, they are showing their true colors when they're firing and laying off trans people first,
Mm-hmm.
but not
DEI.
but DEI, exactly. We seeing it with the DEI. We seeing it. So I mean, firsthand, and believe you me, I keep account. I'm a Gemini. We don't forget nothing.
Damn, well,
We don't
incredible.
forget not nothing. So when it come back around, and the Democrats is leading, we still gonna remember what side you was on. We not gonna forget.
I mean,
Ex-
Democrats, like, mascot is literally a jackass. But, here we are.
Right. I mean, but this regime is
Yeah.
worse. See the
Ooh, somebody said
SSS.
human rights campaign. Ooh, shots
Well,
fired.
Boop, boop,
listen,
boop.
I mean, I'm sure we could. I'm
Because
sure we
what
could
did
go
they
through a
just
whole
do?
list. I'm sure we could go through a whole list of organizations, starting with probably mine. That you know, we can go through of the ones that are not leading the charge. Um, when it comes to trans people, especially trans men of color, um, But we're not even gonna get on like our invisibility and tokenism, because I seen we talked about tokenism here. Like, they love to put us on pictures, but they won't hire us. Um,
In other words, step
except
it up,
for
Trillium Health. You know how to reach me.
listen,
Well,
it's always that invisibility and tokenism.
Step it up.
Here where I'm at, we ain't even got no organizations. Ain't nothing. I can't even answer. I can't even add to the conversation on that question because we don't have that. Like, you would have to go an hour and 30 minutes from where I stay to even start to even talk about somebody having an organization here. So we don't got that type of help here where I'm at all. Like, everything you need, you're gonna have to go up the road to get it. Like, it's not here. Like, and it's disappointing because I come from a place where there's an entire side of the town I can go on that I can see, what I'm saying, my own people and get resources and stuff like that, but we don't have that here. So it's just,
I mean, is that not intentional? Like, I
is
will
it?
never
I
forget.
think it's intentional.
Oh, absolutely it is. When I lived in Atlanta, I used to live in Midtown Atlanta, right down the block from Emory Hospital, which is a teaching hospital, which is one of the largest hospitals in the South. And I went there, and sometimes I like to pussy stunt. I like to, play that cis woman card. And so I went in there, and I was like, I want to know about PrEP. And the doctor looked me in my face and was like, what's that?
Wow.
Atlanta. Hot Atlanta. One of the largest, probably, HIV hubs. And so I let him talk because I'm a troll. And so I was just letting him dig himself deeper. And I told him, I was like, one of my bigger contracts is the CDC, right down the block. You're a teaching hospital. I know you know what PrEP is. He also told me it wasn't for me as a Black woman. And a lot of us at least know that the top three most impacted communities by HIV: Black cis women, Black trans women, Black MSM. And so when I told him I work for or work with the CDC, he was like, well, I'm to be honest, I didn't think you can afford it. So I don't know where people keep getting this mindset that I am just broke down Betty, but it is what it is, I guess, right? So as a doctor in a teaching hospital in Atlanta, you're telling me you're gatekeeping information that could actually protect one of the largest marginalized groups impacted by this disease, this infection? So, like I said, I think it's intentional.
Definitely.
Wow. So the next topic is, there is sometimes a debate within the community about the harm being done to people of the trans feminine experience versus the lack of visibility of the trans masculine community. What are your thoughts and what is the balance? Anyone wants to go first?
Well,
Because
let
I'm
me
about
just
to come
pose it.
out guns blazing.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, shoot him
Nope.
up.
Nope. I want to hear from everybody else first.
Okay, I'm gonna make mine real
All
quick.
right.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because, like you just said, like the lack of visibility of trans masks. But for the most part, the trans mask never wanted to be as visible. The trans mask in my life that I have experienced, we can even see it sometimes in the pronouns. They, she turns into they, them. They, them turns into they, he. They, he turns into he, him. And they're vanished. The closer most that I have experienced, I'm speaking from my experience, no one else's. The closer they get to cis heteronormativity, cis masculinity, they disappear.
Go.
I remember talking to a black trans man who told me, you know when I knew I made it? When I got pulled over by a cop and I was questioned. And I was like, that's a fucking accomplishment. As a black trans woman, I can't walk down the street sometimes without there being a like just for breathing. So I say all that to say is that I think it's changing now, but black like trans men are nothing new. Trans men have been out there for the longest, but trans men have been living stealth a lot more than trans women.
Brothers.
Well, all right. So what I will say is that's true. I think for a long time um that I can think of, I couldn't find trans men of color as that were like elders. Um, when I first started transitioning, I mean, there were a few uh, that I would find in the media. There were a few, mainstream guys, but like in my community, um, and I know they out there. They have to be, but you're right. There is a
Typically, they have to be
serious
out there.
right. There is a
Of
serious
course they
like
are.
invisibility for trans men, especially trans men of color. And I think for a long time it was, and in some places it still may be for safety reasons.
Hmm.
But I do find that for a long time, even like in my experience now, when I do advocacy work, there are very few black men that I can call and be like, in my area specifically for sure, there are very few black men that I can call and be like, hey, I'm rallying for this, whatever the case may be. I usually get like, oh, I'm stealth, oh, I'm this, and I understand, you can be whatever for whatever reason. But I usually ask them this question. So like I get that you stealth and I get whatever is going on for whatever reason. But if something happens that, challenges, your lifestyle or your stealthness, where are you gonna go for support? Because 9 times out of 10, you coming back to the community that you running away from. And a lot of times that's my issue. Um, but I feel like a lot of times, like, there is this fight between trans men and trans women about like who gets the most funding, who are they worried about most when it comes to like healthcare and things like that. And like honestly, for me, I'm just like, we all in the same ship again. Like they not gonna round us up no separately and be like, you're trans mass, you're trans femme, um, we gonna put you over here. You no, they gonna put us all in the same room, and they not gonna
Mm-hmm.
care about none of us.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the fight is like we're fighting against each other, and I just don't care to do that because I think for a lot of different issues, I think as far as trans women go, like they're the most marginalized people on the earth, especially black trans women. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not fighting for the most marginalized people, like for their liberation, like you liberate them, you liberate all of us, you know? But also, I think there's a flip side to it because, you know, I'm a Gemini, my duality. I think when it comes to like certain things like reproductive health care, I feel like trans mass men might be the ones to liberate us on that issue because they are the most marginalized when it comes to that issue. So I feel like there are certain things that makes all of us most marginalized. It just depends on what issue that you point into. So I don't really get the fight between us because we are marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like, you know, there are certain things that trans men are going to have to take the lead on. And I think there are certain things that trans women are already leading in. And that's fine, you know. But also, like you said, if we want to be more visible, we have to take that step to be more visible. We have to take the step to like stop with the like toxic masculinity or trying to be cis because truthfully that's not gonna get us nowhere. I mean, honestly, I would never want to be cis, nothing wrong with it, but it's just not my goal.
Yeah.
um you know, it's not my goal. My goal is to be T. You know, that's always gonna be my goal. I don't have to be overly masculine, I don't have to be toxic masculine, I don't have to be anything that people think I should be. And I think once, you know, black trans men or just black men in general get out of this, like we all have feelings. Like lean into them sometimes. We're all human. Like it's like they, you know, and I think a lot of times that's where the stealthiness comes from because you're trying to be a cis mass man and that's not what you are. Like, but that's just what I think.
And will there be another?
Oh, for me, um, as a as a person who is not stealth presenting, right? It's like a double thing, right? So I feel like in a lot of circles, especially among other trans men, right? Like because I do not present in that way, it's in some way that uh my opinion on my voice becomes invalid because I'm not stealth, right? But in those same circles, you the same people who won't speak for our community, right? But then as soon as it appears is that we are being discounted or not equal to our trans siblings, then it's about us not being us not being given the same level of visibility as our sisters, right? But in all actuality, not all trans men, but I have met quite a few that are doing to other trans men what they saying the trans women are doing to us, right? And so it becomes this thing. Like I was at a cohort and there were literally only four trans guys. It was only four of us. And at times it did feel like we were like an afterthought in the whole, like it was like we were totally invisible to everyone other than ourselves because our opinions weren't asked. We weren't really um there was an opportunity for this type of conversation to happen after an incident happened, and it didn't. A conversation didn't occur that would have opened up a line of communication for us on both sides of the fence to see each other better. And that was a disappointment, right? And so it's like navigating a minefield all the time,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so for me, I'm like, you know, I'm gonna stand on top of the building because I gotta stand on top of the building because if I don't, ain't nobody gonna see me. Because it's always somebody saying what what I can't say, or I'm not allowed to say, or what I'm not valued in saying from the side that's supposed to be saying, you know, the brother got something to say. We should be listening. That's an important thing we're talking about. We need to talk about these things. Those things don't necessarily happen until I had to make those places for myself. And just like T was saying, they're going to put us all in the same room. Like, do you think if they come to do me harm, they gonna be concerned about if I look as masculine as T, or if I might look a little femme? You know what I'm saying? Like they not going to, yo, all of that ain't gonna matter. I'm still gonna be a dead black trans man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so that's how I feel about it. Like, I think that if we and it reminds me of just heteronormative things. Like you put black men against black women, and I don't care if it's a trans black man or a cis black man, or a cis black woman or a trans black woman. As long as we doing this, we never gonna get to the root of what we need to get to together. So as long as we divide it, as long as it's always an issue, it's always gonna be something that separates us from getting some shit done. That's just how I feel about it, though.
So I felt this question was hilarious only because I don't live in a bubble and I travel everywhere across the country and I go to a lot of conferences and be in a lot of stuff when it comes to trans folks. And there's no debate when it comes to harm being done to trans feminine people because that's a fact. We live in a very patriarchal society, in a society where feminism or being feminine is looked down upon and is not as respected as masculinity. Um, so trans femme people always have a harder time, like, and feel like we have to put ourselves out there even more to actually be seen and heard. By way of lack of visibility for trans masculine folks, I don't feel that comes without them choosing to be invisible because everywhere I go, everything I've seen, trans mass folks are the most celebrated, and most of the girls are like pushed aside and looked down upon, not looked down upon, but not as included. um a lot of these things that go on with trans mask events and stuff like that, there's a lot of visibility. There's a lot of visibility on social media. Like if I put something on social media, I will get like 10 views. If a trans mask person puts something on social media, it blows up and goes viral. What's that about? When I'm in the comments about something with a trans debate, um, I see the rhetoric being poured onto trans women as, oh, that's you still a dude, you still a man, yada, yada, yada. Not saying that doesn't happen to trans mask folks, but usually the comments that come in for trans mask folks is usually, oh, he handsome. Oh, he looks good. Oh, I wonder how it's the fetish. I couldn't even get it out fast enough. The fetishism of trans mask men is almost more acceptable, like throughout social media, than the harm that's being done to trans femme folks. Because it's okay for somebody to be trans mask, but not okay for somebody to be trans femme.
Because being a man will always be acceptable. Being masculine will always be acceptable.
And trans men are invisible because, like all of you said, most of them choose to go stealth and not be visible unless it's something they feel they can get out of it or something that will be beneficial for them. And then they go back to behind the scenes where they feel most comfortable.
See, I don't particularly agree with that at all. I think I think that might be, and it depends on the area that you go in to. I think that, depending on what state you're in, there are some trans mass places that are more celebrated, but I also think that those are spaces that trans mass people had to create for themselves. I
For
don't
sure.
think that I don't think that there are a lot of spaces that like organizations create specifically for trans mass people, or even like community spaces that are made specifically for like trans mass people. I'll give you an example. I'm in ballroom. We get one category. It's realness. That's it. There's no other, and everybody else gets multiple categories. There's femme queen, realness. There's femme queen body. There's femme queen face. There's
So where's the
but
trans mask men to step up and say, we
I
want
mean
this?
we could.
Because
I
there's
mean
a
we
lot in mainstream.
and we've said it. I mean, we've said it. There's a lot. There's always a debate about that, and it's, even in mainstream and in kiki scenes. But again, like we are often seen like, even if I'm very visible where I'm at. I will tell anybody that I'm trans. You might see a billboard or a picture or somewhere with me on it, but people, because I am very binary, people choose to dismiss my transness. And a lot of times I'm just thrown into the group of black gay men.
Yeah.
You know, I can't be trans. I have to automatically be a black gay man, because a lot of times in community people don't recognize that trans black trans men are in these spaces. If I don't wear a button or a t-shirt, or you know and then I often get the question of, if you're not gay, why are you here?
Mhm.
I get that. You don't even know how often I get that question in spaces that are supposed to be affirming to trans mass people, trans men. I get that question probably literally every single month since I've transitioned. Every single month, any space I go into. And it's not that I'm not a visible person, because y'all know me. I'm everywhere, but I still get this, like, I've went to a Pride before. My brother sells Pride merchandise, and I hear people saying, "Why is these black dudes here?"
So clearly, we're not going to
Like,
get to all the questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and just sprinkle. Since you
okay,
brought
yeah,
up
sprinkle,
ballroom,
sprinkle. Okay,
right? Let's talk about it. The problem is that these homosexuals have usurped a safe space that was created for black and brown
Trans
trans
folks.
women.
Hmm.
Ballroom was created for that. Yet, now we have been reduced to being these stereotypes of what cis heteronormative European standards. Because Ballroom was created because Crystal and
Crystal
Lively
LaBeija.
didn't want to keep painting themselves 4 shades lighter in order to compete in a pageant. Ballroom was created for pro-black, trans, feminine, drag queen community. And where are we at now? Celebrating everything but. So yeah, T, you say you know, obviously I was LaBeija. I was a Revlon. Like, I'm a mother of a house now, but it's not as much like a house as much as it's like a collective. But nonetheless, it sickens me, literally, to my stomach, to be told that you are very pretty and we want you to walk face. But first, we need you to straighten your hair.
Uh-uh.
So, this place that was created for people like me who are pro black, stand up in my blackness. I've got fucking locks. I'm being told if I want to be a part of this, I need to succumb to whiteness. The very thing that this was built to oppose. So we need to get back and take back because you gave Butch Nuggets an inch and they took a whole last mile to the point where a lot of us don't even feel comfortable in a place that was established as a safe place for us.
I don't disagree with you. You know me. I'm my pro sisters first.
Ow.
I don't disagree with you. You know, you heard me. It ain't gonna be no fight in that because I already said marginalized community liberating the most
Hello?
marginalized first.
Like, I am sick
Your fight will
and
never be
tired.
with
Go
me,
ahead.
baby.
What do you say?
I said your fight will never be with me, baby, because
I know that's
like
why
I
we
said,
here,
I'm
baby. That's
always
why we here. And I appreciate
marginalized.
you because, like, the first time I met you in person was at Creating Change. And this man, we went out to a weed cafe. I couldn't get in because I didn't have my ID at that time. He was like, yo, I came with you. I'm not going to just leave you. Let me put you in a cab and go back if you don't want me to come back with you. Checking in to make sure I got there safely. That's a
Let me be
man
clear.
checking in.
The brothers in my life treat me the same way.
Yes.
And when I talk about trans mask folks, I am usually talking about those outside of my circle, outside of who I know. The trans men I know, I feel the most protected. I feel the most seen. I feel the most heard. But it's when I venture outside of that circle is when I start seeing real problematic shit going on within the community at large. And the complaints that come from these problematic individuals just blows my mind.
Well, sis, I'm sure this could be the last 9 minutes, whatever. But like the reality is, what I think people need to talk about, and what a lot of people don't think. I was watching a clip, and it blew my mind because what we're never talking about is we always talk about toxic masculinity, which is a very real thing. I mean, obviously, there's toxic femininity too. That's very real as well.
Baby, that's another conversation.
It is a whole ass conversation.
9 minutes. Let's
But
not get into
exactly.
That
that.
is a
But
whole
like,
We're gonna go
conversation.
back. We're gonna have to go back to fetishes if we start there.
well, but
Because some
speaking
of the
of
sisters can
fetishes,
be a little predatorish when it
and
comes
speaking
to
of
that.
preterish, I'm glad you just said it because that's where I'm going. At the end of the day, what we're not talking about is that men are the apex predator to women in every form of femininity. So we need, and we can't just, and now it's because I don't like to walk it back. I don't like to do that. Just like I come for the men's necks, I'm going to come for the bitches' necks too. Because when you are raising these men, you are telling them they cannot have feelings. You cannot play with that. You cannot dress like this. You cannot do that. When a man has possibly showed you or told you that they find trans bodies are attractive, or even maybe they like same-sex situations, you belittle them. And what does shame do? Shame gets a black trans woman murdered once a week.
Right.
So there's a lot of blood on a lot of people's hands. And these apex predators did not always create themselves.
And let's not forget that toxic masculinity doesn't stop at trans mass folks. There's
No,
some
it
trans
doesn't.
women that can't let go of their toxic masculinity as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I can be vulnerable. Do I like a little piece of rough trade sometimes? I do. I am healing. I'm not healed. I'm healing. But I acknowledge that. And so, like, when I think about this and I think about, like, who we're giving access to community, let's not forget how we got here. Ballroom got taken over because we gave Butch Queens access.
Mm.
When we gave the world access to what trans women may look like, if I'm wrong, please tell me. Did the numbers not hike up when shows like Pose came out? When people had an ideal of what to look like and look for? You gave people access to our secrets, to the lives of the people they fetishize. So now you had access to the femmes and the trans people who you only had access to from ads or maybe seeing someone, because a lot of the times they didn't hit you up on the streets. You may find them in a club or something like that. Now people know what to look like or look for when they're hunting us, because that's exactly what it is. Cis hetero people are hunting us, but no one wants to talk about that. And we sure won't get all that done in 5 minutes.
Oh, there's so many topics I want to talk about. Oh, we need to do this over again. Oh my
You
God.
don't gotta stop at 9. We could keep
Oh, I
going.
have plans,
Feel like,
but
just like I got plans.
I have plans, but I
rapid
love
fire
that
minute.
for y'all.
Oh man. Well,
Because we ain't talking
I
about
mean,
the gatekeeping by trans organizations when it comes to finances and.
We didn't talk about how transphobia affects everyone, especially like these cis women getting yanked out of the women's bathroom because you might be a little broader than they might like.
Right.
Because you might be a baritone
And you
Barbie.
know,
While I'm still
and,
sitting in that stall, squatting down. Whoopee!
and in that conversation on bathrooms, again, they don't ever think about trans men because I
No,
mean, I don't know who they rather have in the bathroom with them, you or me. So I mean,
baby. You send me in the
you don't
men's. Whoo!
you, you don't want your daughters in the bathroom with trans women. So the opposite is you gonna have them in the bathroom with me, baby. Your daughters might not never come home. They might. What's that?
Baby.
What's that?
Baby.
Right. Listen, we
I'm
might
not
be
a
like
fan of the
Hollow
knee
Knight.
pads, but you
Like,
send me in the men's room with a lot of people that I done seen. Look, I'm gonna make some things happen. I might do some things.
not
And
turn
I
it into
might get a new
sunshine.
something in my purse. But still, you don't want me in the men's room. Not with all this. Not with all that.
Oh Lord. Well, any final words?
Thank you for
Uh,
having me.
I mean, this was a great conversation. I always enjoy talking to y'all my peoples. Anybody listening, I see Blackout keep putting up our cash apps. Feel free to pay us.
Please.
Nobody else said it. I'ma say it.
I'm
Speak on it.
self-employed in a nonprofit sector. I need some monies.
I'm in a nonprofit that don't pay me because I'm black and I'm trans, and and we have a in union negotiations. So, I need all the money I can get.
Look,
But
I
before we close, I do like the last question I had. What brings you joy even in these scary times? And I think if we're closing out, that is a great question for each of us to answer because these are scary times. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody, I'm sure, who's watching this is scared right now. So before we go, what brings you joy even in these scary times?
um
For me, I would say my family brings me joy. My partner brings me joy. Being with community recharges me. Being with community that is very like minded to me recharges me, and brings me joy. I have an amazing mentor that brings me joy and calms me down in high stress situations. Um, and sometimes tequila.
Him.
Period.
Tequila, all
Um,
right.
you ain't lied. My weed and my family and some friends. That's the only thing that keeps me from, like, you know, slapping some bitch because I've been on one this week. And just about everyone who's been cis or identified as cis hetero has made me like, so yeah, that.
Well, I think what brings me joy is my new home. This has been a blessing that brings me joy every day. The fact that I'm able to pay my bills now and I'm not um, struggling like I was, that brings me joy. And also my positive outlook for my people and knowing that we're going to always fight for each other and be there for each other and in any way that in any way that looks in any way that looks and my spirituality, just waking up every day and knowing that I it's a brand new day and I can start over if I want and I just find joy in the smallest things and I hold on to that every day. So yeah.
For me, it's family always brings me joy, right? So all of our children are happy and healthy, our grandkids are happy and healthy. I have an amazing wife, right? Um Being home, like I've been home for a month and a half on FMLA from work because I had surgery. And so, even in that, I found joy in just being able to um, take some time to listen to my body, read some books. Books always bring me joy. Like I'm having a ball reading right now. I don't gotta stop because I gotta go to work or I gotta go to bed because I gotta go to work. None of that. So I'm super happy about that. So those things bring me joy to to just be able to wake up every day and be who I am and just enjoy my circle, my space. So those are the things that bring me joy. All right,
Amen.
y'all.
All right, let's go smoke this blunt.
Oh,
This is lovely, y'all.
Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Listen, if y'all are not subscribers to Blackout Magazine, I'm not gonna keep having this conversation with y'all every time y'all see me, right? Like, we are the pulse of the culture. If you want to know what's going on, if you want to know where we going, what we doing, who we talking to, and what's happening in our community, y'all gonna need to subscribe. So I'm gonna need y'all to hit that little subscribe link because I know it's in the comments. Right?
Get it.
Like, share, subscribe. It's been one, and I hope that y'all all have an awesome night and catch us on the flip side.
Have a good one.